Wow, I didn't find Stevie T annoying in this.
So I'm not annoying enough for you. Well, what do you want me to do? How about that? Yeah, is that annoying enough for you? I can't make anyone happy. You.
And you can't find it used. They don't make it anymore. Oh, that's a story for another video. Morning, everybody. How's it going? I just want to give a great big shout out to my good friend there, Steve Terryberry, for guesting on the intro to the show. Always a lot of fun hanging out with Steve. He's a great guy. And I know he annoys the hell out of some people, but you know, hey, you either like his humor or you don't. That's a great thing about metal fans, though. If they don't like it, they'll let you know because their favorite hobby is sitting around and complaining. Anyway, let's get on with this episode of SMG Viewers Comments and this week's pop culture recommendations, things that I've checked out that I can recommend to you. First and foremost, if you haven't checked it out already, check out the TV documentary series Mr. McMahon on Netflix. Just binge watched that with my wife last night and that was fantastic. I am not a wrestling fan. It's just growing up in the 80s, you know, a lot of my friends were wrestling fans and therefore, you know, I wound up watching a lot just by proxy. You know, we'd go hang out, whatnot. My buddy would like, you know, rent a wrestling tape or something like that. I remember, yeah, my buddy rented a VHS of the very first WrestleMania, you know, the big one with Hulk Hogan and Mr. T. Yeah, that was interesting. That's for sure. Fascinating documentary. I haven't finished the whole thing. I think about 4 or 5 episodes and I'm like, okay, I can't stay up any later. Yeah, back in the 80s, wrestling was really popular. In fact, my best friend, who was like maybe 1 year younger than me, I remember he had a whole collection of, you know, the wrestling figures. And I'm like, are you a little old for that? He's like, oh, those are my cousins. Those are my cousins. Like, yeah, I totally believe that too. Sure. Yeah. Everybody believed that. Yeah. What can I say? My best friend was a world-class bullshit. Oh yes. And books to read, I would recommend this week. I would recommend Heavy Duty by K.K. Downing. This is his biography. Very interesting stuff indeed. It's whole his story about, you know, growing up outside Birmingham and then joining Judas Priest and his career with the band and whatnot. Very fascinating book indeed. I have an autographed copy even of that one. So that's super fucking cool. And I just caught KK's band there a couple weeks ago in Wyandotte, Michigan. Yeah, they were great. Good to see Owen singing as well. Anyway, enough of my recommendations. Let's get to your comments and questions right now.
I'm a bit disappointed that Glem is again quoting used gear prices for Clickbait. I was hoping it was some new Valve junk with a stable, repeatable price. What can you do? Subscribe. Glem is Full Metal. Annoying, but occasionally awesome.
Well, Rick, I'm disappointed in you that you can't grasp a basic concept that I might be trying to show people that there are some amazing bargains out there in used gear if you're patient and you want to fucking put in the work. Here's the thing. I did that video, Bugera versus Marshall. They don't make the Bugera 1960 anymore. Okay, you can't buy that new. Same thing with the Valve King. I just shot that out versus the Soldano. Guess what? You can't find it used. They don't make it anymore. Otherwise, I would recommend that. Why? Can somebody fucking tell me why musicians insist on complaining about shit when all they gotta do is put in the most minimum amount of thought, like that fucking much, to compute, oh, he's recommending a used piece of gear because we can find it cheap. Now, don't come bitching to me when I do one of these videos and then people yank the price up. Okay, the only reason those prices get yanked up is because you're dumb enough to pay that kind of money for those products. All we gotta do is look at what happened last year with the Bad Monkey pedal, where that got shot out against a Klon Center and suddenly the Bad Monkey went through the fucking roof. Only reason it went through the roof is because people were stupid enough to pay insanely inflated prices. Don't be a sucker. Don't be dumb. Don't pay more than what a used amp is worth. If it's a cheap amp from China that didn't cost a lot of money when it was new, don't pay more when it's used. Like we featured one here on the show a couple weeks ago where it was a Bugera 1960 going for like $1,200. It's like, what the fuck is that? Don't go anywhere near that. Don't give that greedy fucker your money. Don't be a sucker. With that being said, I just got my hands on a Jet City 20 watt and you can bet I'm going to be shooting that out against a couple of much more expensive tube amps. It's going to be very interesting to see. If you haven't already, hit the fucking subscribe button. That way you get notified when the fucking video comes out and it helps me grow my fucking channel. I'd fucking really appreciate it. Thank you very fucking much.
Don't remember the name of the video, but this guy had a similar hum noise issue in his signal. He found out that a contractor box down the street was causing the issue. He used a battery-powered amp with a guitar and used the pickups as an antenna where to find hum when it's being generated. A quick call to the company solved everything.
Oh, that is super cool. Now, you're referencing the hum issue that was brought up on last week's viewers' comments, and a lot of you guys chimed in, so I'm guessing this is a pretty common problem. Like I said, I've had issues down in LA. Not here, though. I wired this place on my dad's recommendations. Once again, my dad's an electrician, and despite what he says, I did pay attention. Oh, shit. That's a story for another video. Seriously, though, if you're having hum and noise issues, it can be absolutely infuriating. Like I said, at Harmony Studio in LA, we had horrible noise issues. And after trying a bunch of different ideas, I think I had it figured out that it wasn't really anything in the studio we could do about it. The fact of the matter is we were next to a small grocery store and they were running freezers and refrigerators, big industrial sized ones, 24/7. So I'm guessing that might have had something to do with it. Probably more than anything. But about that video, somebody else chimed in here with a comment, and that's from Michael Lawls.
I think Samurai Guitar had a video concerning that same electrical problem a while back. It was a ground issue elsewhere in his neighborhood. He literally had to take his guitar and a small amp outside and walk around the neighborhood to trace where the problem might have been. A couple of hours, I think he found it was perhaps even saved somebody's house from an electrical fire.
That's super cool, and you can probably find a battery-powered amp on Amazon for next to nothing. So Rick MCCL71, fucking pay attention, okay? This is where I'm gonna make a recommendation on a new piece of gear. Hold on one sec. There we go, Blackstar Fly 3 watt battery powered guitar amplifier. There, you fucking happy? There's a new amp recommendation.
Power is miserable in my apartment too. Luckily, my MacBook Pro has long enough battery life to let me track a few hours worth of DIs without needing to be plugged in. Also using the Focusrite Scarlett Solo Gen 4 when tracking guitars at home because it runs off USB-C power, so nothing is plugged into the walls when I'm tracking. I bet a cheaper MacBook Air would just do the job as well.
Hey, that's a fantastic idea too, and that's the thing, at least you'll be able to get your DIs that way. But if you're running into a live amp, then you're still gonna run into all those kind of problems. In the case of Samurai Guitars, I think that was something being actually generated into the air, especially if he was walking around with a battery-powered amp and he could localize the issue. Not every solution is gonna be the same for everybody's situation. Maybe I need to do a video on this and investigate just a little bit further. Maybe I can make a big recommendation list of how to find guitar noise and how to cure it. I'm starting to sense an idea for a video here. This might be really freaking cool. That's something I'm gonna investigate a little bit further. If you guys wanna see, or if you got any more suggestions, I'm all ears. Leave a comment below. I wanna hear from you.
I had a similar noise problem with my monitors. I tried them in my neighbor's house next door and they were silent. I then moved them back to the studio and then ran a long power cable in through the window from my neighbor's just to troubleshoot, and the fizz came back. Turns out my studio had a direct line of sight to a cluster of mobile phone antennas on a nearby block. I moved the studio to another room, problem solved.
Like I said, it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of issue. I would never even have thought of that, so that's pretty cool. Good for you, man, for trying a few different ideas instead of just giving up. I'm glad you found a solution. Unfortunately, some people, especially if you're in apartments, might not have the opportunity to move things around. Now, a couple years ago, I was looking to move the studio and I found a potential spot, and that was the thing I did. I brought a little guitar amp and plugged in just to check the power to make sure there weren't any issues. I'd recommend that to everybody who's apartment hunting. If you're recording at home, bring a guitar, bring a little guitar amp, and test that power before you sign anything. Probably could wind up saving you an awful lot of problems.
1350. That bass sound, Jesus Christ.
Oh, you're referencing the mix I was working on for the Cranbourne Carnaby EQ demonstration. Check that mix out right here. Oh, hell yeah. That's Spectre Digital's bass amp sim, Element Bass, and I've got a clip on that right now. All right, real quick, today I'm proud to show you the ultimate bass amp sim, Element Bass. You've been hearing it on my show in mix after mix for well over a year now, and so many of you have asked, what's up with that bass tone? How do I get it? And the answer is one simple plugin, Element Bass. We've designed this from the ground up to get you an awesome tone right out of the box. There's no more wondering why the bass doesn't work in a mix. Element Bass has everything you need to get a mix-ready, crushing bottom end with zero guesswork. Discover ultimate flexibility with up to 3 parallel tone stacks, each with their own separate EQ, plus our one-of-a-kind stereo enhancer, compression, and an impulse response loader. You can craft your tone in ways that were never possible before. From pounding metal to blues to country and even jazz, every great mix needs an element. Get your copy today at spectredigital.com. Links in the description below. Now let's get back to the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's that time of the show where we focus on someone whose opinion really matters. It's the butthurt of the week.
Turn it off in a heartbeat due to the childish screaming. A shame, really, because the title looked like something I'd be interested in.
Well, maybe I should have just stuck around, you big fucking crybaby. Well, I didn't like the way he was talking. I'm running away. Run away! Run away! Why is it the big tough heavy metal guys are always the first ones to bitch about something when it doesn't go exactly how they were expecting? I don't fucking understand that in the slightest. The fact that you whined about it in the comments just drives me up the fucking wall. It's like, great, you know what? Maybe you should stick around. Maybe you should grow a thicker skin. You might fucking learn something, dumbass! I don't like the screaming. Here's a newsflash. You listen to heavy metal. Half the vocals are screaming. Why is that okay? But when I do it, oh, I don't like the sound of that. Fuck off!
Glenn, when doing these comparisons, could you think about doing a poll to see which one people like it better instead of just asking them which is which? I'd be very interested in seeing what the distribution is between cheaper guitar versus more expensive gear. My hypothesis is that there will be a close to 50-50 split, or an even split if there are even more two items being tested.
I would love to include polls attached to my video. Unfortunately, YouTube's not set up that way where we can do that, and I think that really sucks. Actually, the next time I get to talk to somebody at YouTube, I'm going to make a recommendation for that because I think that's something we really need. We can do polls, but they're not, they're not integrated into the video in any kind of meaningful way. I would love to see something like that. But don't make assumptions of, oh, I think it'd be a 50-50 split. Read the comments and then make your observation based on the evidence presented. That's usually the way how we learn things.
Have you had those people you really respect take a blind pickup test or no? I also used to be able to tell the difference too until I couldn't see.
Ah, yes, the blind test, the great equalizer. I haven't done that blind pickup test yet. I'm working on a formulation, the way how I can repeat it, and I'm just trying to see how I can set it up to get a few people I really respect into the show. I'm taking a wild guess. A few cross-continental trips and a few transatlantic flights might be required along the way. So this isn't going to be something I can do in a week or something like that. This is going to take some time, but I think it's going to be really cool to check out once it's done, because I think it's going to be really fucking awesome. And it's something nobody's going to want to miss, that's for sure. Stay tuned for that. I'll keep you updated as it goes along.
Why not just change the speaker out in the actual combo itself?
Dan. I did say you can change the speaker out in the combo. You can definitely do that. I recommend that, especially if you don't have a lot of money. Like, you can do a serious upgrade to a combo amp for like $125 by throwing a Mojotone speaker into it. That's absolutely fine. That's a great idea. Just make sure you match impedance. The only reason I use cabinets in here is because I want to run similar amps into the same cabinet to see what the big differences really are. In a lot of cases, it's not a whole lot of difference. Just with some careful dialing, you can probably get most amps to sound like other amps. It's kind of shocking, really, especially when you're doing reamping. That's really the great equalizer when it comes to guitar tests, that's for sure. But yeah, by all means, if you don't have money for a cabinet, yeah, just buy a speaker and upgrade it. Problem solved.
Glenn, you know most people who start their own studios are drummers, right?
No, that's news to me, actually.
If you had to pick between the four major food groups, guitarist, bassist, drummer, or singer, I would be willing to bet most of us who start down the endless money pit are drummers.
Hi, Warren. Thanks for writing in. In my experience, I don't think so, but I could be completely wrong here. I mean, most home studios I know are guitar-based, but I could be wrong. If you've got some evidence to back up your statement there, I'd be willing to check that out. I'd be willing to go visit some of those studios, even because I love recording live drums. I just did the AEA R88 mic review, and it's become very apparent I need a bigger drum room. I've got no room to work anymore. I mean, like, here's my main light right here. I mean, like, it's just, this studio was initially designed with a whole lot less gear in it, and 20 years ago it was absolutely fine. I used to get whole bands in here, that kind of thing, but I didn't have large parts of the room taken up by a full-size console and giant racks of gear, which is just off out of camera here, or multiple drum sets in the drum room and a wall of cabinets and all the rest of it. Yes, I need a bigger space. Man, do I need a bigger space. Fingers crossed that I can get some plans approved and start on construction. Honestly, that can't happen soon enough.
For $7,000, I'd rather buy a round-trip ticket to Tokyo and buy a nice vintage Tokai, Greco, Bernie, Les Paul copy that you can't get in the US. Screw Gibson.
Scott Dunn? Dude, that's an actually spectacular idea. Yeah, instead of spending $77,000 on a Murphy Labs, yeah, take the money and go to Tokyo. There are some absolutely spectacular guitar shops in Tokyo. Like, there's a whole block of dedicated music stores and stuff like that, and there's just some absolutely gorgeous instruments in there. Yeah, for $7,000, you can get yourself a really nice trip, some really nice meals. The food in Japan is fucking spectacular. And you can get yourself a really nice guitar. I mean, like last time I was in Tokyo, I was checking out all the Edwards. I nearly bought an Edwards V when I was there. I was just like, oh. Apparently there's a couple of those shops do arrange transport for stuff back to North America. Yeah, actually, I think that's a great idea. If you're considering buying a $7,000 Gibson, yeah, go to Tokyo. Seriously, you're going to have a much more fun time. You'll get a better experience out of the deal, and you're going to get yourself a spectacular guitar. Scott, I think you just gave me an idea for a video. I've been looking for an excuse to go to Japan. You know what? I think I'm going to do that. Thanks, Scott. That's a fabulous idea. I'm writing that down right now. I'm not even a single cut guy. I'll buy one just to make this happen. I think that's going to be a great idea, man.
Glenn, what level do you master your audio to your videos?
When I'm doing music mixes, I usually do about -10 LUFS. I don't know what my editor is mastering everything to, but generally, if the monologue is too louder than the mix, I'll have them turn it down a little bit, but generally -10. I think you can, -12 or something like that is supposed to be the level for audio mixes. I go a little bit louder, but not a whole lot. All I can say is I'm just so grateful that the loudness wars are over, because mastering a music loud for the sake of being loud is much like auto-tune. It just plain sucks.
Hey Glenn, been a fan of your channel for a while, and I especially love seeing the videos where you're talking about speakers and mics. Any combination of the two alone can make a big difference. I really want to see more people like you shooting out gear. Can you please do a video where you use V30s as your control and shoot out some Ted Weber Tone Cult speakers? I'm really curious to see how some of these lesser used speakers like the Direwolf and the Bloodhound sound in one of your mixes.
Yes, the Weber speakers are definitely on my list of stuff I want to check out. I want to get some Fanes. I want to check out some Scumbacks as well. There's a lot of cool speaker brands out there other than just Celestion. Don't get me wrong, I love my Celestians, but I love working with different speaker brands as well. Of course, Eminence is a name that keeps coming up over and over and over and over and over again. Apparently the Texas Heat is something really worth checking out. Ooh, I think I got to go pick up an Electro Voice. I think I got a thing in the mail actually, and I need to do that as soon as I finish shooting that. So yeah, that's going to be on the show soon as well. Somebody from the SMG Discord, links in the description below if you want to join up, it's free by the way. Somebody from the SMG Discord was nice enough to send me an EV12M or something like that. Really cool speaker as well. That's going to be coming up on the show real soon, as well as another look at some vintage tubes. I think he threw those in the box as well, like some old 12AX7s from Mullard and stuff. We'll get to see. Ooh, is it really making as big a difference as everybody says it does? Yeah, I'm sure it does. Oh yeah, it's definitely going to be worth spending that kind of money for that big of an improvement in tone. At least that's what I'm guessing. Hey, I could be wrong, but given my previous tests, probably not. But I can totally tell, man. I can tell. I spent the money. I can tell. Guitar players, the only thing standing between them and the greatest tone ever is evidence.
Delta 1010. The process of getting those to work successfully was a masterclass in computer-based recording. Still have one of those broken rack boxes somewhere.
Oh man, yeah. The getting the early recording stuff to work on a PC, yes, was definitely a gigantic pain in the ass. That's for sure. I can't remember. I think the Delta 1010 was still like we were still messing around with IRQs and those, making sure you had enough of those available. Ooh, what a giant pain! Yeah, actually, that's right. The Deltas weren't even USB based; they were card based, weren't they? Oh yeah. You had to have available IRQs to make that happen. That was a giant pain in the ass. Actually, the even more difficult than getting the Delta 1010 to work was my first system, and that was the Metalithic Digital Wings for Audio system. I remember spending an entire day trying to get that to work, and I lost my fucking mind. I had a bunch of angry phone calls back and forth to the company. Eventually, I got it working and did my first few recordings on it and first couple projects, and it was very, very, very archaic. But eventually I made it happen. But yeah, the Delta was a big step up. But again, we were limited by that whole IRQ thing. Actually, when I switched over from card-based systems, it moved to Firewire. And I had the original Army Fireface in here. And then I eventually went to the UFX Plus, and the rest is history. I gotta say, yeah, getting audio stuff to work these days is just so much easier because everything's either based on USB or even network audio at this point. Like I've got that beautiful Merging Technologies Neumann unit. It's a 2-channel, but it controls everything, and that's all based just on network cable, and that's where things are heading. And I think that's really fucking cool. It's gonna be an interesting ride over the next years, that's for sure. Stay tuned. You're definitely not gonna want to miss it. But then again, I'll put this back to you guys. What was your nightmare hardware situation? What were you using and how difficult was it to get to work? Because I know for a lot of us guys on PC anyway, it was definitely a giant pain in the ass. I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that a lot of the Mac-based stuff was just easier because it's all kind of designed to be a tight system. Somehow I convinced myself that recording on a PC was a smarter idea. Hey, I don't mind being wrong every now and then.
Glenn, you ever consider taking out the papers of citizenship and moving to the US? Seems a lot of people you actively collaborate with are in the US, although there's a lot in Europe. I'm not bagging on America's hat, but that's not exactly LA. Plus the import taxes, exchange rate losses, etc., etc. Logically, it's probably not optimal. Well, maybe I'm wrong. If you decide to join the Hive, we'd love to have you. Your first AR-style rifle is on me.
Oh, thanks there, man. I appreciate that. Actually, from the end of 2018 to the end of 2021, actually, I was what was considered and actually had a valid U.S. work permit, and I was working in the U.S. Like half the year. I was down in L.A. at Harmony Studios in Hollywood. Everything was going great, and then COVID just fucked everything up. And I had a taste of L.A., and I realized I didn't really like the traffic. The people were great. I loved L.A. for that, but yeah, the traffic was a giant pain in the ass. And the rent situation went from bad to absolutely horrific in Los Angeles. So I'm not in a hurry to go back anytime soon. And you know, I go down to visit. Trey is over in Glendale, and Alex, my partner over at Spectre Digital, he's in Corona. So I go visit those guys all the time. I love San Diego. I'll say that. You know, my American friends are awesome. Yeah, I'll say that. I absolutely love America. Would I consider moving back? There'd have to be a pretty good reason. I mean, after spending some time in the hubbub of LA, I kind of like where I'm at. It's boring here, but you know, the Detroit airport's like half hour away. If I need to go get real big city experience, I mean, like I can just jump on a plane and go do that. And that's all kinds of, actually, I'm front loading a few videos this week because I'm actually off to New York City for the AES convention at the Javits Center. So I will be there if you want to meet up. I will be hanging out for a few days there. It's going to be an awful lot of fun. Hope to see you there. And no, I'm fine with the AR rifle. Thanks very much. Yeah, that's not really my bag, baby.
Hey Glenn, are you using new editing software or something? All of your inhales were way more prominent and noticeable in this video. I can't recall you ever having the issue in all these years I've watched you. Not complaining, man, just curious. Rock on.
Hey Brody, thanks so much for writing in. It's not actually my editing software. I was actually having my Empirical Labs distressor. That's my main compressor for my vocal that keeps everything kind of under control. I was having that serviced. A capacitor had dried out and wasn't remembering its settings. So while that was being serviced, I was using the Eventide compressor, and that's great as well. The big difference being is I'm just getting my head around how the Eventide works, and the distressor is something I've been using for 20 years. I know exactly how it needs to be dialed in for a monologue, whereas the Eventide, you know, it's a little bit different. You can definitely push things maybe a little too far if you're not careful, whereas the distressor is pretty much impossible to fuck up. That being said, I plan on using the distressor for this camera and then the Eventide over here when I'm doing like desktop explainer type videos, because I think that's going to be a lot more simpler for my day-to-day setup. And for that to happen, I need to rewire my board and show you guys how the Antelope Galaxy works and all that. So that's just a big thing. I'm hoping I got time to do that before I leave for New York. Fingers crossed, maybe it'll happen. Then again, maybe it won't. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Just want to say thanks to Steve T for making an appearance on the video. Always glad to have him on the show, and hopefully found the video useful. If you did, make sure you hit the subscribe button. It would just help me grow the channel. And make sure you get in your submissions for oldies but baddies. I want to hear you. Anyway, that's it for this week. I hope to see you in New York City, and until then, fuck off! They don't make... Fuck! Dude, and they ran it loud and pay...
It's the butt.
Have you had the people who you really respect take a blind tick up? Well, let's do that one more time. That was terrible. Fuck! Tick up test? Fuck, Glenn. Jeez.